Hero design is probably the most important part of a hero shooter, and Overwatch is no different. Today I'm going to talk to you about what makes a hero very well designed, and where other heroes might fail and why they do so. I just want to show you that what you like playing against isn't usually just what's balanced and what the devs made strong or weak. It's usually about the interaction you have with that hero's kit and the hero's identity. Anyway, let's just start off right from the start with the thematic, the visual of the hero, how the hero looks, their design, not just their kit and balance or anything, it's their genuine sound, abilities, skins, everything, how they feel. Visual design is not something people always usually mention and go to when talking about good hero design, but I do think it does have quite a bit of merit on what people think is well designed, and also correlates with the well designed kits. It's kind of weird, but if you think about it, the hero, when you make a hero, they should look like what they do. They should look like their kit. That is one of the most important things I think about when it comes to visual hero design. They should look like their kit, right? You design a kit, and then you make a character with that kit, not the other way around. That's my opinion. I don't know how they actually do it though. But think about your favorite characters. They generally speaking look really cool. Like Genji, Reinhardt, Cassidy, and Juno. These are really cool looking characters that have one simple, almost narrative with their kit. Like Genji is a cyborg ninja. There's nothing else with him. He's a cyborg ninja, right? Reinhardt, big armored crusader with a hammer. He does exactly what he looks like. Cassidy, cowboy. Yeah, exactly what he looks like. Same with Juno, right? And that's really, really important. The character's kit resembles their design. You look at Genji and you instantly know that this guy is probably going to use some sort of a ninja weapon, either sword, shuriken, whatever. He kind of uses both. And you know he's going to maybe be mobile. He's going to be quite cool and like to just play. And he is. That reflects it. I think if Genji didn't look like that, people would be more confused, or if he didn't play that way, he'd be more confused. An example I try to sometimes use is if anyone's played League of Legends, the character Shen is this ninja guy, kind of similar to Genji, but he plays like a tank that just kind of taunts people and then just stands there and autos them. It's not a very fun playstyle, but he doesn't look like he's that character at all. Genji's the opposite of that. Anyway, a good visual kit helps you to instantly understand who a hero is and what they do, right? You instantly look at Reinhardt and you go, this guy's a tank who's going to hit people in the face with a hammer and be this big soak-in damage character, right? That's what he's going to do. Obviously, maybe he doesn't play like that all the time, but that's what he looks like he should do, right? It helps new players, understand what they're going to do in the game before they've even played it just by looking at the character. Especially if they come from other games that might use similar stereotypes. The visual design also helps to create a bias for heroes that have poorly designed kits. This happens sometimes with some characters. There's not too many, but one of the main ones I think of is Kiriko. She's very well designed visually. Like, she looks great. Really cool kit. Really cool Fox theme. Part of the Hanzo Genji trio thing, right? Really cool kit. Throws kunais, all that kind of thing. Wall climb, TP, stuff like that. Visually looks great, and it makes a lot of people forget that her kit is terribly designed. Like, it's a pretty flawed kit, but because she looks cool, it doesn't really matter as much. Even I have softened a lot to Kiriko because, well, she kind of looks cool and kind of fun to play, so it doesn't really bother me as much. Whereas characters like Hog, who don't look that cool or whatever, are just a pain to play against. People just double down and hate them even more, right? Someone who has the opposite of Kiriko with poor visual design but a good kit is Hazard, in my opinion. Hazard, doesn't look like he fits in the game. He looks really weird. He doesn't look like what he does. He just looks odd. Maybe that's just me. Hazard doesn't really feel like he looks like he's part of Overwatch at all. He's kind of just odd. But his kit's actually really good, and he's actually quite well designed. I actually think he's one of the better characters we've gotten in Overwatch, right? If more tanks are like him, I'll be happy, right? Hazard has got lots of counterplay, lots of things you can do with him when playing, and it's great. It's great, but he does look really weird. He looks like another bad character, which is unfortunate. That might sour some people's tastes of Hazard, but genuinely a fun character. Anyway, that's enough on the visual. I don't want to talk too much about visual because it's not really the main point here, but I do think it does play a pretty big factor. Anyway, moving on. Counterplay and choice. Decision making is the heart of Overwatch, right? It is literally what you're doing. It is the skill is decisions, right? There's mechanics and stuff, but even positioning and things like that is all decision making when you really think about it. Like, where do you go? What do you do? What can you do with your character? What can you do into that character? What can you do with your team? It's all about decision making, right? Good heroes can make lots of choices. Like, they have loads of choice, right? Freedom, it's great. But they also offer lots of counterplay, so people can counter their choice that they made, and then you might have to make a new choice. You can also then, because of that, counter other people, right, with your decision making. Instead of it being this linear game where this thing beats this thing, if they play that, then you can't play that because you have only one decision and you can't do it anymore, right? A really good example of like choice and counterplay is Tracer. She's just the definitive best designed character. I think everyone agrees on this, right? Tracer can kind of do whatever the hell she wants, right? Because you have 3 blinks, recall, you are a threat damage-wise if you are mechanically good with it. You have an ult that you can build really quick that can basically just, if you stick it every single time, take someone out of the fight instantly, as long as there's no cleanse. Tracer has loads of choices she can make. She can position where she wants. Her whole thing is that she can take so many different angles quickly, right? She can rotate super quickly. She can take one angle, apply pressure, people start pressuring her, she can blink over, take another angle, move deep in, come back. So many things you can do, right? Because she's squishy and because she's so difficult to like actually pump out huge amounts of damage, she can get countered quite easily if people are just better, and better Tracers will just do more than her. She's just one of those characters that requires you to be really good. But when you are really good, because you have so much freedom, you can do whatever you want. And so when you lose to a good Tracer, it doesn't feel like the character's broken. It feels like that Tracer was just a good player. That doesn't really happen with a lot of the characters in Overwatch. But you gotta admit, I don't think you've ever thought, like, you might think Tracer's too strong at a point, but you know for sure you couldn't just play Tracer and do what that Tracer player just did. But with Hog, you kind of can sometimes. My favorite bad example, which is like the opposite of Tracer, is Widowmaker, right? She has one playstyle, one choice to make, right? Play a long angle. Just a long sightline angle and apply pressure there. She can't rotate that much because she can't use grapple in a, offensive way because she might just get dove, so she kind of has to save it sometimes. Obviously, depends on the circumstances of the game. She might be able to grapple to different places or whatever, right? But one playstyle, hit headshot, or don't kill anything. She's feast or famine, and it's the worst design. It's all or nothing, right? You either kill someone or you do 0 damage. It's just, there's not really any balance there, and there's no choice. It essentially is like playing against Widowmaker. The reason it sucks is not that even if the Widow is playing bad, nothing happens. It's more of like, say you shoot 20 times as Widowmaker, but then one of them lands and they're instantly dead. To play against that, it feels like shit because you forgot the Widow existed and suddenly you died. Even if you should have died ages ago, Widow just took you out instantly, and it feels so much worse. I felt like you didn't have any choice against that, even though she missed about 10 shots before that. Whereas a character like Ashe or something, you get hit once, and then you get hit again and you die. You're like, okay, well, whatever, Ashe hit 2 shots and I just was positioning bad. Widow just like, you just peeked for a second and died. But she might have been missing 100 shots before that, so it's that's why she sucks, right? That's why she's terrible. Good kits are also expressive kits, right? Tracer again, very expressive. She can, you can show off. Creative flair sounds like a really weird thing to say, but you can watch different Tracer players and they do kind of move differently, kind of position differently, do whatever differently, right? The kits that allow you to really just express your own skill. Characters that don't have that just feel more boring to watch and feel like you're watching the same thing over and over again. But Tracer's always been exciting to watch in Overwatch League and OWCS because she's such an expressive character that can just do so much and is so fun to watch, right? This is going to sound really weird and people might disagree with me, and I think this to an extent. I believe that if every hero was difficult, we wouldn't have as many bad designs, right? Now that kind of goes on to my next point that I'll talk about later, but I do think about the well-designed characters, they are quite skillful. Like the bad ones just take no skill. It's really weird. I know that there's a point at which there should be some easier characters, but every character should be able to express skill, right? That's kind of the point. And every hero should be outplayable by everyone in an ideal perfect world. You should be able to pick a character. Anyone can pick any character and just be better and win, right? Think about like Tracer, right? Even characters like Ashe that might feel like they struggle into Tracer, there is counterplay to her because you can force her out with one headshot. You can dynamite her and force recall. There's a lot of things you can do to beat that Tracer, and I think that's where it's fair. Well, my last point on counterplay choice is the versatility, right? Tracer, Genji, Echo, and Ana are my great examples of versatility. You can kind of play on whatever map. Genji not as much, maybe, but can kind of play whatever map or team comp and can make it work, right? Versatile characters are usually people's favorites because you don't have to swap all the time. It doesn't feel like you're playing Counterwatch or whatever it is, right? You're just able to just play. Like, I'm just locking Tracer and just playing Tracer, right? If I ever get annoyed at something, it's like usually my fault or whatever, right? A swap isn't going to change anything. Tracer will work most of the time. Same with like Ana and Echo. Versatility is probably people's favorite thing and they don't even realize it, right? It's just great to be able to do whatever you want. Anyway, my next point is the skill expression, skill floor, whatever. I kind of touched on this, but skill expression and difficulty is a major factor in what makes a character well designed. Usually, if you have a difficult hero, they require lots of time to get good at, and so they feel less bad to die to because they're more difficult, right? And there's no like free value or whatever. Do you know what I mean? So, going back to my point, if every character was difficult, if every character was like a Tracer level difficulty, which is kind of crazy to think about, everyone would be having to just play well against each other to win, instead of, oh, your character can just get a lot of free value. You know what I mean? It's that type of thing. And that's why I think skill expression really matters. Now, floor is different to what I mean by skill expression. Now, some characters can be easy to pick up. For instance, Reinhardt is really easy to pick up, but has quite a lot of skill expression as you learn with the character. But some characters don't have that, like a Life Weaver just kind of does the same thing start to finish. His only skill expression is through general Overwatch skill, not the character. And that's not well designed, right? Usually difficult characters have like specialists. If you see this, you'll have a guy who's really good at Genji, right? That's his thing. He's really good at Genji. Guy's really good at Echo, really good at Tracer, really good at who else? Like Ana, really good at Boar, really good at Doom, right? These difficult characters end up having specialists, which I think is more interesting. They require so much time and effort that people are willing to put so much into it to specialize in this character. Not everyone likes that idea, but I think it's really, really cool to watch, to know that, oh yeah, we're watching the really good Sombra guy or whatever, right? And I know Sombra's not exactly well designed, so she shouldn't be in this conversation here, but she is a skillful character. She's a very weird case. I think you can make a whole separate video on Sombra, right? But yeah, you had specialists or whatever, and that's great, right? You want heroes that reward time and practice. The more time and practice you put into a character, the more you should get out of the character, right? That is exactly what you want. I go ahead and practice Tracer a whole bunch. I should then be able to do really well and get lots out of her. Take a first-time Tracer player playing her for the first time in the game. You're going to do terrible. You're going to just do terrible because you haven't put the time and practice in yet. But you compare that to Moira. I can play a Moira game right now. I'm Masters 5 on support, right? Playing Brig, like Brig Bap or whatever, right? More skill expressive characters than Moira, right? I could probably play Moira right now in my ranked game and I probably wouldn't have that difficult of a time. She's a character whose skill floor and skill ceiling are like at the literal same point. It doesn't really mean much. She's a character that can't express anything. And that means it feels worse to play against because you're there, Kate. This is going to be a yap. Prepare for this, right? But imagine I had a Silver Tracer player, right? A guy who's learned Tracer for the first time in Silver. He wants to learn Tracer because that character has the ability to carry him very high when he learns the character, right? That is just true. That's just a fact. That's how it works. It happened to me. It is a character that can do that. You then play against as that Tracer Silver. This guy hasn't learned Tracer yet, so he's still Silver and Tracer, right? And then you take that to the Moira, who's Silver. Now that Tracer's probably already put in like 50 hours of practice into Tracer into this, right? And then you take that to the Moira, who's just picked Moira for like 2 hours into that Tracer in that Silver game. Moira's going to just do better. She just will do better than that Tracer. Now, that's not to say Tracer can't outplay Moira, but the Tracer's going to have to play as if they're Diamond already to beat that Moira. Or Plat Gold. Obviously, it's probably not that extreme. But I didn't explain that the best, but can you see what I mean here? Obviously, if I played in a silver lobby against a bunch of silver Moiras as my high diamond low master Tracer gameplay, right? Which isn't like, it's not an ego stroke, I'm not that good at the game or anything, right? But I would probably beat all these silver Moira players. If you put me back down to silver or whatever and play Tracer, Tracer is not one of those characters that can just carry yourself through everything. You have to be that much better. Obviously, this falls off. So for instance, if I play Tracer now into Moira in the high diamond low master lobby, right? I would probably beat the Moira still, because the Moira can't learn as much as I've been able to learn on Tracer. Anyway, that's my point. That is the difference between, well, like, the how skill affects the hero design. Sorry, that was such a weird example to bring up, but it's something I've thought about a ton, and that's how I think about it, right? I hope that made sense to people. Anyway, my last thing is just other factors. These are just small things that don't really fit anywhere else. A weird one is ultimates that aren't just win fight buttons. You don't just press an ult and you win or whatever. I think not many characters have that, but it is something that matters, right? Tracer has to land pulse to do anything with it. Genji kind of has to be good with blade. Echo duplicate, same type of thing, right? I think Nano might be one of the only ults on a good character that just does feel like, oh, you just win the fight. But there are bad Nanos, so, you know. Team play. People feel like they can interact with their teammates. A bad example would be Hog. So Hog feels like you can't play with Hog because Hog is just doing his own thing. That can feel bad for the teammates and the enemies. So there's no win in there. And another factor is perks can help alleviate any like of the problems I'm having with choice and stuff. And I definitely think if they tweak the perks a little bit, they can almost afford to do less reworking because perks can almost act as reworks. So I think perks are doing a lot of good, especially for characters like Reaper and Pharah, to make them feel more dynamic and more fun. But yeah. Anyway, that's it. In conclusion, those are all my reasons. I think well-designed characters are like Tracy, Genji? Yes, there's his name. Tracer, Genji, Echo, Ana, and yeah, there's others, but those are just my main. Lucio, I didn't even mention Lucio. I just don't play much Lucio, that's why. But yeah, I want to know who's your favorite hero and who you think is the best designed hero or even the worst designed hero. I might make a hero just based on what makes a hero badly designed. Even though I kind of touched on it here, I might make one. Anyway, like and subscribe if you want more of this stuff. Thanks for watching. That hurt to talk that much. Thank you. Peace out. Peace and love. Enjoy for the rest of your day.